I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous that Josh is gonna find like some very hidden, buried secrets in my work that I'm not ready for the world to see yet.
Hey everyone, I'm Ergo Josh, and this right here is Samdoesarts. Well, it's his artwork at least. Now today I want to talk about Sam Yang, aka Samdoesarts. I am so sure you've heard of him or at least seen his artwork. It is extremely popular on Instagram and YouTube and pretty much all over the internet. You've probably seen it shared on tons of art pages everywhere on Instagram, or you've probably seen his videos, they've been popping off as well, or you've probably seen his artwork with little captions on it shared around, or just as a thumbnail for a lot of lo-fi music videos here on YouTube itself. This guy's work is super shareable and viral. I mean, he has grown. This month marks the month where he has grown over 1 million followers on Instagram alone in less than a year. Now, with all that being said, I want to focus on the artwork specifically because I think it's easy to get caught up in the, oh, he's painting the pretty girls. Oh, he's painting the same thing every time. Oh, he's super consistent as why he's successful. But I think there's a specific element with his work that is why it is so shareable, which is the key to growing so fast. And to mention that I want to try and see if I can replicate this effect in my own artwork. There's a lot of things I love here, so I'm going to get down into the nitty-gritty for a little bit here before we go into this speed paint, or I should say time lapse, because I'm definitely going to be taking my time doing this. So there's two things about his art that I really believe we need to focus on to understand why he's so successful. The first thing is that it's very clear. It's sharp, it's clean, you know exactly what he's trying to show, and he doesn't really let anything distracting get in the way. The second thing is that he's basically a master at stylization. Most people like me just stylize in terms of their drawings, and so they draw in a stylized way, they push and pull the proportions and sizes of different things and anatomy. But with Sam, not only does he draw in a stylized way, because as we know, if you look at his channel, he draws all of these things to start out with, but he also stylizes the lighting. He doesn't paint the lighting exactly as the reference is. The lighting isn't nearly the same. It's close, it has the same general feel, but a lot of times it can be very, very different from the original reference. And not only does he stylize the form and the lighting, but he also stylizes the color. In the color of all of these, it's way, way more interesting than the reference itself. So when you have something super clean and crisp, stylized, easy to consume, simplified, and the colors are just amazing and pop out and really give you that thing that we all love to see, that subsurface scattering, that orange, pretty sunlight effect. It just makes for an incredibly appealing image that everyone wants to share and consume online and just see in YouTube thumbnails as well. So before I actually get into me trying it out for myself, I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about with this example right here. Again, I think this is very important. You need to look at his reference in order to really understand what he's doing, because it's easy to just get caught up in the beauty of everything when you're looking at the artwork alone. So the first thing I want to look at is how he has changed the colors and the lighting of this so much. He has really drawn your attention to the face and made it very, very clear that this is the focus. And he's also made the face a lot warmer, which has a beautiful contrast with the rest of the face around it. But it's still cool, and it still gives you that cool, moody feel because you can see there's a lot of bluer undertones in the jaw and in the lighting up here. What I also really love is the juicy feel to his work that's in almost everything he paints. So if I just switch my iPad to black and white or monochrome mode, you can see that the gradation from the nose all the way to where it comes below the chin is super smooth, and you can get a really nice feel. It feels almost like porcelain. You can feel her face with how well he has rendered it. But it's like there's so little values here. It's such a subtle change. But when you look at the colors, you can see that there's a lot of different colors there, and you can't get that by just painting the skin tone, shadow value, and lighting value. You're just not going to get that same effect. I mean, not to mention the lips here as well. So much translucency and light scattering everywhere, and the highlights, everything just feels juicy. And one of the last things that I really love about his stuff is that he leaves the sketch in, because I love to sketch really wildly these days, and I like the appeal that it has. Some people don't, but I think it's really, really effective, and it lets you cheat and get a lot of contrast and pop to your work that you wouldn't be able to do if you limited yourself to no lines at all. So as for what I'm actually going to paint here today to try to copy Sam, let's hope I can do it. I've got this reference here. It's very Samdoesarty, and I think I'm going to pick a few references to look at while I do this. I think this one will work as well. This one has a little bit too much detail, but I think this one will also be a good choice. If we look here, the things that I hope I can nail is the fact that you can look at and see how clear he has decided where he wants his lighting to be and where he wants his shadows to be, and he has no unnecessary details in those shadows, and you can still get the forms to read very well. You can see the same thing here. This is all in light, and you can still get the forms to read very, very well. Very key attention to where those shadows are actually happening. But with this, it's extremely complex. You know me, you've seen my paintings. I love to get into the form and make it look really realistic, even though I draw stylized. But I need to figure out how can I simplify this in this, appealing way, not just draw it simplified, but change the lighting and find the colors that are most important to replicate. I am not very good at this, but I'm going to do this here on camera for you guys to see. So we're all going to suffer, and hopefully we're all going to learn something. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to limit myself to 90 minutes, just like he does. He's always doing these 90-minute to 2-hour drawings, and I went ahead to give myself a little bit of a break, and I already sketched this out because, sketches can be kind of tough for me, even though it's one of my favorite parts. So yeah, that's enough talking. Let's get into painting. And there we go. It's been 90 minutes so far. I'm gonna stop the clock. This is my final result. We started here and then we got to here about 90 minutes. And yeah, I wonder, I wonder what this would have looked like if Sam did it. I'm not super proud of how this looks, but you know what? Instead of trying to imagine how Sam would do it, I'm just gonna go ahead and give him a call and see what he thinks. Yo, what's up, Sam? Yo, Sam, are you there, man? Hey, there you are. What's up?
How'd you get my number?
Don't worry about it, man. We'll talk about that later. But I have a really important question. I need to ask you something. Super, super important. I have been trying to copy your style because it's awesome. And I have a painting that I did. It didn't turn out that great. So I was wondering, do you have any time to help me out with it?
Yeah, of course. I got you, man.
All right, man. Brace yourself. This is it. That's it right there.
Okay, you know what? I see what you mean. I think I see some things that I think could be a little bit better about this piece. So you know what? Why don't you send this piece over to me, and I can do a little critique on it for you and send it over back to you, and you can get some feedback on this piece.
Nice. Awesome. I will go ahead and send it to you right away. Thanks so much, man.
Okay, let's do it. Cool.
Okay, so I had Josh send over the PSD file. I think there are some things here that we could work on, some things that we could improve based on my personal preferences and what I like to do for my styles. Josh gave me the consent to end his entire career, and that is what I'm going to do. So based on what I see in the reference photo, the light wouldn't reach this side of the mouth, so that part would be darker, it would be covered up. And looking at the skin tone here, I think there might be a little bit too much saturation in the oranges on this area of the skin. I would actually probably move it down to the reds and desaturate the shadows just a little bit. And I think I want to darken the shadow a little bit to create a little bit more contrast. I think overall Josh did a pretty good job with the proportions, especially on the torso and on the hips. But I think the shoulder, the left shoulder here is coming up a little bit too high. I think he made this as a bit of a stylistic choice. For me, I think I want to bring it down just a little bit. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to liquefy. So once I bring that shoulder down, I think I need to bring the arm down a little bit too. Otherwise it's going to look too big. Now, something else that I want to talk about is the proportions on the face. So that's here, we've got the eyebrows, we've got the eyes. I think there might be a little bit of a misalignment between the two eyes. So if you look at the inner corners of the eyes, they're going at a little bit of a different angle than the eyebrows. You usually want to make sure that they're at the same angle. So I would probably bring this eye down a little bit more. And then in terms of the center line of the face, I think it would go something like that. And in this case, I would try to bring the eyebrow over just a little bit to make it match the spacing of this eyebrow. And you know how we're gonna fix that? We're gonna liquefy. And while I'm at it, I think I'm also going to expand the eyes a little bit more, just to suit my style. Right, so I'm making the eyes a little bit bigger. I'm bringing the left eye down so that it matches the eye line. And I think the mouth could also be brought up a little bit, because if you look at the spacing between the bottom of the nose and the top of the lip, usually this area is quite a bit smaller than the spacing between the bottom lip and the tip of the chin. Something like that, and then we're going to liquefy the line art too so that everything matches up. I think I would also give a little bit more volume to the hair, and when I'm painting hair, I would try to avoid this kind of hard edge like that. It'd be better to break it up with like some loose strands that come out, you know, things like that. Obviously not like this, but okay, so I think that's pretty good, but I also now want to add a little bit more shadow to the pants. Once again, the shadow value is very saturated, and I want to desaturate that just a little bit and make it a little bit darker. Right, so if you take a look at what I've done here, a lot of the things that I've done have added more contrast to the character, and this is really important for a lot of my pieces, especially the ones that are outdoors in sunlight. Is you got to remember, sunlight is a very powerful light source, so the light and the shadow are going to be very high contrast. But now I want to move on to the background. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change the horizon line, because in the reference photo, the horizon line is actually going in this direction, and I think it gives the composition a little bit more of a dynamic feel, and I'm gonna try to change that here. And I've just erased the sketch lines in the background. This is because I usually don't leave my sketch lines into my backgrounds. I want things that are closer to you, things that are a little bit more important in the scene, to have a little bit more clarity. And in the background, I don't want too much of that sharp, crisp sketch line kind of clarity, because that sometimes takes away from the subject that I'm trying to depict. And I think something else that I would actually do for the background is to, again, create a little bit more contrast. You could add some orange tones onto the trees there to make it seem like the sunlight is hitting the tree. Same thing for this tree here. I would add a little bit more contrast. I can see that, Josh, you tried to get some of the shadows going here, but again, when there's sunlight outside, you want a lot of contrast between the light and the dark. We could add some grassy stuff, I'm just gonna go in very fast, very rough, just to get an idea of what it might look like. Again, I'm just adding a lot of contrast between the lights and the darks, right? Because the sunlight is a very powerful light source. And this is all very rough, very quick. I would probably take my time with the foliage here if I was actually painting it on my own, but since this is a quick paint over to give you guys a sense of what I would do differently, you know, we're just gonna do it really quickly. And if you want to have some fun, you could even add some clouds into the background, you know, just some nice, big, fluffy clouds.
Did you guys just see what Sam did to my artwork? It's ridiculous. Let's go ahead and look at it. Let's look at the before and after right here. Look at this thing. It's incredible what Sam was able to do with just a few simple tips and tricks and quick brush strokes and a little tweaks here and there to just take this to the absolute next level. Now, I want to take a quick note to really reiterate what I was talking about with shareability, and it really links with the last video I made about why Instagram tends to promote artists who do the same thing all the time. I'm pretty sure it's obvious to you that this is way more shareable than this over here, which really just feels unfinished, because what happens in this image is instead of thinking about it as an artwork and thinking about the brush strokes, people who don't necessarily do art all the time, which is the majority of people on Instagram, and why these types of platforms are really good for us artists is because the audience is huge. They just immerse themselves into the image. So when you're creating your own artwork, think about, why would someone else share this? What are people who aren't artists thinking about? Why would they care enough to send this to somebody that they care about? So my goal with this video is to give you guys an inspiration and a jumping off point to think about how you can look at your own content and think about, what can I do to make my content more shareable in that sense, so that eventually you can get the followers, the likes, the attention that we all want. Let's not pretend that we shouldn't want it. We all do want it, and we all do want to be supported if we're trying to make this a living, being an entrepreneur instead of getting, you know, a typical art job in a studio. So I really hope this has helped you out. This is going to be it from me. I think I'm going to take another pass at this later on, but keep drawing, stay positive, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace. You know, what if I just like opened up Procreate here and then I put this little dongle into my iPad, and then I plug this thing in here. Who knows what that's going to do? Let's flip it around. Maybe, let me get my Apple Pencil here. I think I got something's going on here. Whoa. This is what? This is really, this might just be a huge game changer.